Hi, it's Dave Grammersdorf. Let's talk about how we can use Pear Deck not to deliver lessons, but to give better directions. How can we use Pear Deck to meet the needs of our ELLs and students with IEPs and 504s and anybody who would benefit from things like having directions read to them, having directions translated for them, having directions written in a clear way right in front of them instead of up on the board. We can do all of those things with Pear Deck. So what I have here is a Google slideshow that I normally use for directions that I put up on the board. Okay. So for instance, here it says directions, finish your presentation and turn it in. Number 2, if I give you comments, meaning on your presentation, please make those changes. And then number 3, what do you do when you're finished with 1 and 2, right? So normally I would explain that aloud and I would put that up on the board. And inevitably, if I change what's on the board or I move on and a few minutes later, somebody's going to raise their hand and say, what do I do next, Mr. G? I forget. Well, this is going to help solve that issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Open Pear Deck button here. Once that opens up, I'm going to start my presentation just as I normally would, and I'm going to make it instructor paced. Okay, so as that comes up, I'm going to make sure that I put the normal screen right here up on my board in front of the class. I'm going to have students join whatever way I normally have them join. For instance, they can go to joinpd.com and put in this joining code. So I'll do that now. XBTBZJ. XBTBZJ. And now my students are going to have those directions in front of them on their device. But remember, we also have Immersive Reader here to help us out, right? So we can have our students listen to this direction. Oops, I'm on the wrong slide. Let me advance to the right one here. Now my students have the direction on their devices. This is the student view. And if they click on Immersive Reader, now they can have those directions read to them. So watch what happens. Let's listen, see how clearly it comes out.
Directions 1. Finish your presentation and turn it in. 2. If I give you comments, please make those changes.
Okay, so you can hear that this is reading nice and slowly and clearly. If you want to see how you can change the pacing of the reading, change the voice, and that sort of thing, watch the video that we did about Immersive Reader, because there are a lot of great features in here. The one thing I will say is to be careful when you're using it to read directions that you have on the board, because the reading feature really pays attention to punctuation. And if you don't have things like periods and question marks, it's not necessarily going to pause in the right place. So on this slide here, I have 3 directions for a math lesson. And notice that it just says fractions on a number line Pear Deck, and there's no period. That phrase would make sense when read as part of directions, but when I go back to the student view and I have those directions read, listen to what it does.
Math fractions on a number line Pear Deck, adjust your answers. Turn in when done. Please complete fractions on a...
Okay, so you'll notice that it blew right through the phrasing that I had on the screen, which made sense on the screen, but read it didn't. So you'll have to do little things like go back in and make sure that you have a period at the end of phrases like fractions on a number line, Pear Deck. All right, but right there now I have directions that are clearly on the board. I have directions that are written in a child's hand. I have directions that can be read aloud to them. And of course, you can translate those directions as well using Immersive Reader. So right there, I'm doing a whole lot of things that can meet the needs of my varied learners. All right, hope that was helpful.